Champions. Yes, this is our final broadcast of our first Forge of Champions scoring tournament, and we have the grand finals coming your way very soon. My name is Scoundrel. I'm joined by Orcs and Dowsey. These gentlemen have worked with you through the entire of this tournament, and we are finally coming to the culmination of our first one. How are you feeling?
Excited. It's going to be a exciting matchup. I just use exciting like 3 times in a row. Whatever, you know, we're starting off, warming up. How about you, Dowsey?
I'm excited. It's going to be an exciting matchup. I really think that these two teams have really exciting play styles. Now, I mean, Wind and Rain, Diabolus. Diabolus clearly is a team that so far has really impressed, but I think Wind and Rain potentially under the radar.
I think this will be a close one. Now, if you have been living under a rock or under the sea, or maybe you're a sponge or a squid, this is the Forge of Champions. This is a new UK tournament. We are broadcasting it from Barcelona with the intent to move this to London in the near future. And it is a culmination of all the greatest UK players and teams, and they're competing in a series of tournaments in order to gain lots of really cool prizes. Speaking of the prizes, first is the monetary prize, £50,000 on the line here for the Forge of Champions, as well as 2 EU Masters spots. Now, Forge of Champions takes place over 4 unique individual tournaments. All of these tournaments are open to anybody, so there are 2 sections. An open tournament, which allows you to sign up with your team at forgeofchampions.com, or as a solo player, you can go and sign up at forgeofchampions.com and find a team there. You then compete in a tournament where the top 8 go through to the next follow-on tournament, which is what we call our scoring tournaments. Here you can win prizes such as points, which gather you points over the course of these 4 tournaments. That gets you either a spot in the EU Masters if you amass the most, and the top 8 scoring teams over the course of the 4 tournaments go to our knockout stages, which is the grand finals of the entirety of Forge of Champions. And you also can win monetary prizes on each of these individual tournaments as well. So it's a little bit complex, but hopefully you can get your head around it by going to visit forgeofchampions.com. And remember, like I said, and sort of the little graphic came down below, make sure you go and sign up there. Even if you don't have a team, it matches you with people based on your elo, and you can find people and just compete in a tournament. It's really good fun. If you want to get involved with us today, you can go to Twitter, LVPUK, and use the hashtag ForgeOfChampions1. We want to hear who you think is going to win between Diabolus and Wind and Rain, our 2 finalists today. Who is your favourite player? Who do you think is going to stomp who? Who's going to in the hardest possible? Orcs isn't playing, so it can't be him.
Whoa! Wow!
And if you want to check out any of the previous games and their VODs, you can go to YouTube, type LVP space UK, and it has every single match there. All of the videos will go up, and you can view those matches individually. So
maybe they just want to see us again. You know?
Or you just want to see Orcs and Dowsey's face again. That is perfectly acceptable too. Now, all the housework is out the way. Let's get on to our first game of the day, gentlemen. Diabolus, Wind and Rain. Talk about how they got here, Dowsey.
Right, absolutely. I mean, Diabolus, they've had a potentially tougher run of the mill. Going up against Enclave in the quarterfinals. That's a matchup that has a bit of juicy rivalry. You know, Enclave has knocked Diabolus out at key stages in tournaments, and Diabolus have done the same. The players definitely have that rivalry going on Twitter. But then their semi-final matchup as well, Misfits Academy. I mean, that's the team that most people would expect to win any UK tournament. You know, they're the previous Premiership winner, but they didn't look so strong against Diabolus. Yes, they took game 1, but it was more of a mistake from Diabolus yesterday, a Baron throw that Diabolus were looking very strong up until that point. And then after that, they just kind of closed out against Misfits as if it was business as usual.
Game 3 was very one-sided.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I picked up on, one of Diabolus' strengths has been early laning phase. They have looked really dominant in the laning portion of this game, and it's something that is incredibly important to this current meta, Orcs.
Yeah, I think the meta is so much more fast-paced. It's so much about the early game, getting a lead and snowballing that. I feel like it suits Diabolus completely. They've played like that in every single game. And even the game that they lost against Misfits, it was from a massive Baron throw. They were still in control for the early portion of the game.
Talk to me about Wind and Rain then, because this is another team that maybe flew under the radar a little bit. They dispatched M&M with pure ease. I mean, it didn't even look close.
Right. I mean, the thing about Wind and Rain that I do want to highlight so far is that it doesn't look like they've been tested. They went up against Phelan in the quarterfinals. Phelan, of course, was one of the open bracket teams that made their way into the quarterfinals of this this first scoring tournament. And then against M&M, a roster that most people weren't really looking at. Definitely took down XL, but we've already established that some of Excel's fault, some of M&M just playing very well. But yesterday, M&M didn't look strong. They tried a wacky composition. It didn't work. And I mean, we can pull up the bracket and just see exactly that road. You can see Wind and Rain, they took out Warwick Esports, which is a null team. They took out Phelan, which is an open bracket team. Then they played M&M Gaming, which was their first real test. And now they're in the finals against DIABOLUS. Whereas DIABOLUS, across the board, has had to play slightly harder matchups. Enclave, Misfits Academy.
Yeah, and from this bracket, you can see Wind and Rain and DIABOLUS will be one of the two teams scoring the most points from this initial tournament. 2,200 for the winner, 1,600 for the second place.
Yep.
So, and then it all scales down to that. There is various points, 700, I think, being the 8th team, sort of the 5th to 8th team places that you can get there. And also lots of money on the line as well here.
Yeah, I mean, for first place, it's 1,800 in the scoring tournament. Second walks away with 1,200. But the really cool thing is that all those teams at the far left of the bracket, which is about to fade away, all walk away with 400 points as well. So if you make it through the open bracket, then
you at least get something.
You get 400 points. If you make it to the quarterfinals, which is just one more round, then you start getting prize money as well. So
absolutely,
lots of incentive for people who potentially haven't played in the UK tournaments yet, or potentially think they've got a team that could topple some people to try, because all you have to do is win the open. All you have to do, guys, is just win the open bracket and then go through one round in the round of 16.
And also, you've got to remember that this is the tournament that scores you the least points. It scales up over the course of 4 tournaments. The final of our 4 tournaments being worth the most. So this kind of one, you're allowed to have a little bit of leeway in your performance, but you want to be ramping up your performance over the next few tournaments.
If you make it through the open bracket, then you get over double the amount of points that you get in this first one. And then if you win it, it's 5,500 points, which is just more than double the winnings this one as well.
A team could come in just the last tournament and win it, and I think they would be almost guaranteed. Well, guaranteed a spot in the top 8 for the knockouts. So, I mean, yes, it's impactful, and I definitely think if you're eyeing up the first the place with the most points, which gives you the spot in the EU Masters, then very important to get as much as you can without it. But if your goal is to get into the knockout stage, I think a lot of teams, you know, XL got knocked out early, Enclave got knocked out early, they're still definitely in the running. Absolutely.
Now, let's focus in on this matchup then. We talked a little bit about it already, how they kind of got here through that bracket. Let's talk about the teams specifically now. Wind and Rain and DIABOLUS coming through with, like we saw, kind of varied paths to the final. Interesting playstyles of both sides, and Orcs, you were highlighting a little bit about the difference in the playstyles between, especially the mid-jungle combo.
Yeah, so I think with NG and Zeph, they very much like to get priority mid. They then roll up to the top side and gang for Flaxius, and they want to get him ahead so he can snowball and carry. Meanwhile, their bot lane tends to be self-sufficient. They're either playing safe 2v2, or even if they can get an advantage, it's still them just playing 2v2. And the only time they sort of get help from their team is once top lane's been snowballed, they can then TP in, bring the rest of the team, and contribute. On the other side, though, Wind and Rain have more of a flexible sort of playstyle. They haven't specifically honed in on one area. Nalty tends to have good objective control on dragons and ganking around. But then Crossman just... he has been the MVP so far for Wind and Rain. He will follow up when he feels it's appropriate. He will turn up, and he will turn what might have been a not great situation for Wind and Rain into something very favorable for them. And I think the matchup between them, it's going to be, can Nalty and Crossman shut down NG and Zeph from roaming together? And
that's a really interesting point, because when you look at the mid laners together, Zeph has a very, similar hero pool. He plays Ryze, he plays Sol, he plays Galio, and then he was forced to play Cassiopeia yesterday. So he wants to kind of control the lane, push it in, and then roam away. Whereas Crossman, he's focused pretty much exclusively on assassins, and I'm going to include Lissandra in that category somewhat. He plays Zoe, he plays LeBlanc, Lissandra. He's looking to try and control the mid lane matchup, so that when he wins the mid lane matchup due to his strong hero pick, champion pick, he then can influence the rest of the map. And usually it's the bot lane that's getting the most priority from Crossman, because they want to get facts rolling as well. And it also allows Nalty to continue his Drake control, which is something DIABOLUS just have not looked at all.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, because I've just seen, because of that top lane focus, that there is almost no control on that bot side of the map. Is this an issue, do you think, that's going to sort of arise here for DIABOLUS? Do you think, in fact, let me rephrase this completely. Do you think that they are so one-dimensional that Wind and Rain can pick them apart?
I think one of two things is going to happen. If Wind and Rain have adapted to what DIABOLUS can do, and they feel like they have a way of countering it, then that's what you want to sort of implement in Game 1. I think DIABOLUS are going to play the way they've played throughout the tournament in this Game 1, try and get Flaxius ahead, let the bot lane be self-sufficient, and it's up to Wind and Rain to challenge that, because DIABOLUS have proven this is effective against Enclave, who are fourth place team from last bit, Misfits, who are our first place team from last split, so they have to prove they can overcome that. If they can, it's then in Diabolus' field. Do they have something else to offer, or are they a one-dimensional team?
I think a really important thing to look at is that so far through the scoring tournament, it's been best of 3s, but in this final, it's going to be a best of 5, which gives Diabolus the chance to, in game 1, play their bog standard game. If it then fails, then they have to pull out a new trick, and that's where we're going to see the scope of Diabolus' play.
And they've already done that before, right? They've already had that ability to react a little bit before.
Potentially. I mean, they played their standard game in game 1 against Misfits, and then through, and then they played their standard game again because it was working. It was only a throw that caused them to lose.
I think one factor was they increased their late game win conditions, which helped. I think the thing to focus on is that Wind and Rain have to hit the ground running, because if in the first game you establish you can beat out Diabolus and what they play every single game, great. But if it takes you 2 games or longer, as let's say you go down 2-0 before this happens, your back is going to be against the wall. Even if you crack it, you don't know what else you have to face once you've sort of released Diabolus from playing their meta, their normal standard.
And I think that's a really strong factor for Diabolus if they do have other game plans. Diabolus has been a team that has been very one-dimensional because it's worked. Clearly, they want to play the same game style. That's why they're constantly ending their games around 24.5 minutes, because they have this game plan. They focus on Flaxish. They rotate for the same objectives every game. Get Rift Herald, get those objectives, get Baron, finish game. And so if Wind and Rain do crack open that style and show that they can counter it completely, it starts to become a little bit scary, because there's no prep that you can put into what Diabolus are going to pull out next unless they're scrimming.
Yeah, and then every single game that you lose against whatever they bring out next, that's, getting closer and closer to losing the whole series, and you have to be thinking, right, next game, how do we adapt? We've just been beaten by this, what do we do now? And there's, especially in this meta where there's things like gold funneling and the like, there's so many different strategies that you might be faced with after taking the first game of Diabolus.
I want to look at the top lane specifically, because there's been a lot of talk about this. Flaxish versus Kerberos, two kind of resource-dependent top laners as well. I think both of them do require resources to shine, although I think Kerberos has shown that he's got the ability to, when devoid of resources, build in a way that allows him to be self-sufficient. But Flaxis, especially when we saw him in the EU Masters for Movistar, and a little bit now, given the jungle's tactics that we see from Diabolus, does require resources as a top laner, which is an interesting kind of take on the current meta, and always has been a little bit of an interesting take over the last 6 months. As we go into picks and bans very quickly, what do you make of this matchup?
I think based on how Diabolus play, it's so good for them, because Flaxius, he does so well when he gets the resources, and when you get someone like Kerberos who also wants resources, when they're in a difficult position, because if they try and match that, I feel like Diabolus is going to beat them from practice. The
one thing that Diabolus does do with Flaxish is put him on tank champions. So far, we haven't seen that from Kerberos. He's always played carry-style champions, and so even though Diabolus do put pressure and priority on their top side to get ganks off, they can rely on Flaxish to be that tank in their games.
Alrighty-o, here we go. We are into picks and bans, and I think that's a bit of a respect ban for Akatsuni, you would say, the Zyra coming out there.
He's played Syra, he's played Nami, he's played Zillion. That's his hero pool so far.
Yeah, I think it talks about... Oh, they're just completely banning him out.
Oh,
I think it talks about the play style of Diabolus. They're not going to bother with the bot lane, and so because of that, they want to just get rid of things that has priority in 2v2. Zillion and Zyra are vulnerable to ganks. If you don't gank bot lane, it can provide a problem. And then on top of that, Diabolus had the first pick, so clearly they're in a position where they're like, we're just going to leave a lot of things open. We want the option. You ban away what you're scared of, which so far has been the Mundo and the Nocturne. We're still going to get something powerful. Yeah,
they're going to leave a lot of power picks open here. I would be surprised if Nami is the third ban. I think that's kind of less of an issue for me than the Zyra. The Zyra and the Zillion are these kind of very powerful supports within the right hands, can be very obnoxious to play against, very difficult to play around. I think Nami's a little bit on the edge for me, but in terms of having the same kind of power level. But the Talia coming out is very interesting, because it has been something that has been contested, but not often by these two junglers specifically.
No, that's the one thing I want to talk about. None of these junglers so far have played Talia. None of these mid laners have played Talia as well. So you have to wonder if that's just a bog standard pick. This Aurelion Soul ban makes sense because that is one of Zeph's signature champions, but when it comes to Diabolus, NG has probably played the most variety of jungle picks, and so banning junglers against him doesn't make sense. But of course, if you want to remove particular junglers that you don't want to play against, that's when it makes sense.
So this makes much, as you see the Rakan locked in here, you can imagine they're looking for a Xayah Rakan combo from that.
Yep.
So you can pick Lucien here, you don't need to pick Braum until your third pick on this rotation, although we have talked lots about this. A lot of people just do, because they're going to pick Braum anyway, so why not just give them the option to have some kind of element of tactics on that third pick?
Yeah, I think if you don't pick Braum here, there's a risk that Diabolus then take a mid laner, and it's like you either choose, do you counter it or do you pick Braum?
Yeah.
And you're sort of locked into that situation. So.
Yeah, you don't want to get into the second ban phase where they start banning those counters and...
Yeah, exactly.
Interestingly enough, Wind and Rain have picked Lucian every game but one. And so that makes sense considering the meta is so strong for Lucian. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is a good pick. I mean, it has been left open. We did talk about, you know, Crossman's signature champions, the Zoe and the LeBlanc.
Yep.
A lot of assassination potential. And Diabolus just decided to leave them open. Obviously, maybe they have a plan in store.
Yeah, and obviously we can see we predicted the Xayah Rakan would be the issue. What do you think here now? Once you've got Xayah Rakan, it kind of fits into most compositions, right? So you kind of do whatever you want.
My goodness.
Whoa,
Okay.
that's a statement from Zeph.
Yeah.
That is a big statement from Zeph.
I mean, LeBlanc has been the champion that so far Crossman has been prioritizing in the mid lane. We haven't seen that from Zeph yet, so clearly he's saying, you like LeBlanc? I'll show you LeBlanc.
What do you think about that matchup, by the way, Orcs?
I think that Zoe has the advantage in terms of shove, but I think LeBlanc has the advantage in terms of the ability to 1v1. I think there's a much higher chance for LeBlanc to find a kill, and she's more mobile, so she's safer. So, going to be interesting to see how that one plays out, but it does mean... We've said how Zeph likes to roam so much. He doesn't have the shove capability to shove quite as easily as Zoe does.
So we've got a Morgana coming in as well.
I mean, it's a safe pick into Xayah Rakan. It means the Rakan can't really just freely engage, but it doesn't offer a ton of pressure. It does have a lot of pick potential, though, especially synergizing with the Zoe. So.
It does give you that element of protection. It's an added layer, but then Braum can kind of do the same thing versus LeBlanc because you can block the sigils with your Unbreakable. So.
I think it shows Akatsune's playstyle. You know, we've seen the Xayah, we've seen the Zillion. He likes these ranged supports. Conventionally, Braum might be the thing that other supports would have gone for, but I think he feels more comfortable in this Morgana.
And the one thing is that you know, Diabolus is going to be fine with that. They've got a very mobile bot lane. They're not going to be too concerned about the bindings. It's all going to be about playing safely, which is Diabolus' style.
Yeah. I think a big advantage here from the power pick and a Zoe being picked up early. Wind and Rain can now freely leave their counter pick top to last if they want to.
Yeah, and it's a statement from Crossman to say I'm very happy to play Zoe into whatever I get matched up against. I don't know if he was expecting the LeBlanc given what Zeph has played in the past, but it's definitely a statement.
Yeah, well, he's picked Zoe every time it's been available, and so that makes sense that he would instantly pick it up as soon as possible. But yeah, Zeph definitely throwing the curveball here. Sejuani, Aatrox, Darius, and Vladimir banned out here. We saw a bit of Aatrox yesterday from Flaxish, and so clearly not going to want it as a counter pick on the red side. Maybe we see something else come through from him.
Yeah, Kiribos was tweeting about it as well, so I think he is happy to have picked up that champ too. So both Will and the player, and I think Diabolus are aware of that. Not too surprising here. Skarner is something that Nulty played, I believe, in both games yesterday, and it goes to his playstyle. Good objective control with the shrines, good ganking pressure, especially when you have lanes to set up CC already, and it leads into Kiribos having this counter pick, which you said was so important in this matchup. Yeah,
we talked a lot about these two teams, and we talked a lot about the top lane as being a cool area of focus for them, and it does look like Wind and Rain want to make sure that they are very happy putting Kiribos on something that at least he can find a 1v1, or something that, given the way we know that Diabolus like to play, can have good anti-tower dive potential, can have good resistance, and this is a really interesting end of the draft here for Diabolus. We'll wait until everything gets locked in to talk about it, but the Olaf has got locked in, and it's likely going to be on top of Flaxish and Olaf going to the jungle.
Yeah, so Flaxish wanted to play this utility role, knowing he doesn't have the counter pick, and then the Olaf, that speaks volumes to me. We talked about the importance of this mid-jungle matchup. Olaf is a good matchup for Skarner. We saw this a lot at the EU Masters sort of meta, where Olaf was picked into Skarner consistently, and then this is what again's been doing here. It's a bit later meta, this doesn't happen as much, but I understand the matchup is what they're looking for here. They want to give power to Zeph and NG in the 2v2.
And there we have it. All of our compositions have been rounded out. And you can see Xayah Rakan in the bot lane. We're going to have Zeph running with LeBlanc, which is a little bit different, but still gives them that roam potential, that kill potential in the top lane as well if they want to focus up top. And Flaxish running with Ornn, which is a moderately safe matchup into most things in the top lane, so he won't have too many bad matchups. But Kerberos, we know he likes to play Camille. We know he's a very skilled Camille player and will eventually win out. That is a matchup that will eventually go to a point where Camille can find the 1v1s.
And I'm actually going to be really interested to see how much of a contest Camille becomes over this series as well. Both these top laners love picking Camille. We've seen that so far through all of their games in this scoring tournament. So currently it's Kerberos, but potentially next game it will be Flackish.
And also we've seen, and in this meta as well, a lot of Camille junglers have been coming out. We saw a little bit, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we saw a lot of LCS sort of, not 4 or 5 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, but we saw some Camille sort of hyper carry junglers as well. We haven't seen that much from the UK. I think that's kind of toned down a little bit.
I think the nerfs to a hookshot damage hurt jungle more than the top lane. A lot of people still max in the hookshot in the top lane. But the difference is, in the top lane, you're going to have a lot more gold, a lot more potential to scale. That doesn't really happen so much in the jungle, and base damages are more important.
Also, you can use the hookshot more often in top lane more effectively, right? You're going to get it off cooldown more quickly, more likely to hit it as much as possible. Whereas jungle, you look at to get it on one gank, so you have to have that sudden impact damage with the hookshot. You're probably not going to get more than one off over the course of a gank. So in top lane, you can probably get it off as multiple forms of harass over that time. So these are the compositions, and you can see. Where are we sitting then? If we're going to have a look at the win conditions, we always like to talk and reflect on win conditions here, Orcs. Have a look at Diabolus. Is this going to be another mid lane jungle roam win condition? You kind of just leave the Xayah account to do their thing, or would you reflect and say, actually, this is maybe going to be bot lane focused? They might change their strategy up here.
I think they have potential to change up the strategy. I think obviously Morgana's not the easiest thing in the game to gank, but with LeBlanc, you just pop a shield instantly. And I think, you know, Snowball and Flackish, it's not going to do as much. He doesn't take towers as fast. He's not going to snowball hard. Sure, you can shut the Camille down, but later in the game, she'll come back together in this matchup. This screams to me that Diabolus have expected Wind and Rain's response. Wind and Rain have looked for a strong 2v2 in the mid jungle, as we said they should. Diabolus, instead of playing their normal style, they've already switched to out, which I think is smart because they're on the blue side, and it's hard to play that style on the blue side. You can't get a favorable matchup top. And so they've looked for a strong 2v2 themselves in the jungle mid, and I think they have it.
And Dalsy, the first time that we saw Diabolus lose, I think it was Flaxis playing a fairly low impact top laner that was didn't scale up too well, and they didn't actually end up using him as split pushing. So they invested a lot of resources. You probably wouldn't see them invest a lot of resources into this on.
I think they will potentially get him ahead just because of the threat that Camille can be in the late game. But what we've seen from Diabolus here is the Xayah, Rakan, LeBlanc, all very safe mobile champions who can escape the Zoe is the really interesting one. Of course, when Xayah hits level 6, she'll have that invulnerability, and so the whole point here from Diabolus is that, you know, they're going to play safe in lane. They'll have kill pressure. We've seen them have immense kill pressure in lane with this bot lane, but also when teamfights come out, then they can respect Crossman Zoe, who we've just seen dominate teamfights.
So is this tier 1 dive, bot lane, rotate, get tempo type thing, or is this...
Honestly, I think you can still pressure the top lane. The thing is, you won't be passing the kills off to Flaxis, you'll just be passing them off to Zeph on this LeBlanc. I think the difference is, though, we've seen him play champions like the Aurelion Sol, who can just shove and roam really easily into the Zoe matchup. There's a lot more potential that as you're walking through the jungle, you get hit by the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Also, she has a lot more shoving power, so
and that's something
harder
that
to execute.
So far, we've seen from Zeph that when he goes for the ganks or when he returns from the ganks, it's super telegraphed, and teams have been looking to try and exploit it. Yesterday, against Misfits Academy, Zeph got caught out on his rotation. It meant that he had to walk all the way up. He then got his recall cancelled. It meant that Kenzuki had a really good opportunity to get ahead in the mid lane from CS and farm. It didn't win Misfits the game, but clearly Zeph can be punished.
And let's have a reflect on, just very quickly before we jump into game, on the Wind and Rain composition. You've got Camille, Skarner, Zoe, Lucian, and Morgana. Where are their win conditions? What is the point of that composition?
I think Camille works as a late game, sort of as a split pusher, but sort of as like a safety net, so that if you do get to that point, it works well. I think you have really strong gank pressure from the Skarner and as well from the Zoe, so Zoe starts to roam. I think you're 2v2 strong. There's lots of outplay potential between the LeBlanc and the Olaf. I'd favor them, but if you can get a roam down bot with that combo, I mean, you can just absolutely brutalize anyone. The same if you go top. I mean, Ornn's a sitting duck. There's so much CC. I think it comes down to how these mid junglers play, how they play around the Scuttle Crab, who gets the most gold on their jungler, and they'll start to show who wins out the matchup.
So are we looking here, do you think, a game that's going to be absolutely dictated by those mid jungle combos? This is going to be primarily rotating around how they react to each other.
Yeah, I think sorry.
One thing that's really worrying for me is this Olaf, because it's always feast and farm when we see it, a famine in the jungle. And so whilst this Skarner, he's a utility jungler, he does well on low income, he can always come back and be a threat. For NG, I think that he's going to have to really get ahead on this Olaf. We haven't seen him play this kind of champion yet so far in those Forge of Champions. And so, you know, whilst Diablo's always focused to get the jungle rolling through the ganks that, you know, Zeph comes and joins in, if he can't have impact, then Diablo's gonna have a bit of issue, you know, getting this game going their way.
I think with top lane and bot lane, the Ornn vs Camille and Zyra Khan against Lucian Morgana, it's very low interaction. Unless a jungler or someone else turns up, I don't think much is going to happen.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand you over to Dalsy and Orcs here for our first game of the grand final Forge of Champions first scoring tournament. It is Diabolus versus Wind and Rain.
Thank you very much. And it's a pause, so we might be coming straight back to desk. But as you can see, these teams so excited to get into the game that they adhere to the traditional UK, what am I trying to say here?
It's
method,
basically, it's not a UK game without a pause.
You have to pause at the beginning of the game. It's good luck.
Yeah, probably going to get some baked beans on toast.
Is that what you do? Is that when all the XL games had pauses, but you just saying, lads, I need some baked beans on toast?
No, I mean, there were times I went for. There was times I'm like, yeah, can you pause that? I need to go to the toilet, you know. Just say I disconnected.
Just tell them my mouse isn't working.
Yeah, my mouse is broken.
Anyway, we're back into game, so it will be underway. It is going to be Wind and Rain on the red side, Diabolus on the blue.
Yep, no, and we'll have to see if Diabolus try to do anything early. They're the one team that has consistently looked to try and change where these guys start by invading into the other's opponent's jungle. You can see that NG kind of noticed coming in, spots an ulti, but because of Wind and Rain's positioning here, it's not really going to be any contests.
Yeah, I think information in the early game is going to be really important here because we talked how much a lead for the junglers is going to mean, and you can see NG and Nulty just trying to get vision of each other and see where they're starting. Particularly in the 4G Champions so far, we've seen junglers constantly contesting the buffs of others. In fact, we often see them starting on the enemy jungler's side of the map, taking their buff and then crossing over and picking up the Scuttle Crab on the way. Might well see this here as well. They might just cross over the opponent's red, but don't know for sure. But definitely know that this there's going to be lots of contention for these early jungle objectives.
Yeah, NG's the one who usually initiates it. I mean, one thing I want to talk about really early before we get into anything too exciting here, Ox, is the dragon control that we've seen come out of Wind and Rain, and so far Diabolus really have had poor dragon control. Nulty on this gun is going to have a lot of area of control with those shrines as long as he can set them up, but our first Drake is going to be that Infernal Drake, and clearly that's a Drake that most teams would look to prioritize when they have the opportunity. Oh. Wow, a big flash.
Yeah, good level 1. I mean, you have to flash there. You have to respect the level 1 from Zyra Khan, but already a favorable trade for Kuki and Anthrax. And we talked about how Diabolus don't like to focus on this bot lane. They're self-sufficient. That doesn't mean that they don't do anything. That just means that they're okay on their own, and they're showing that here again. No jungler camps come in. No jungler ganks come in this early on. They've already burnt the enemy AD carry's flash, so perfectly happy here. Yeah,
that's something that we've seen consistently on this Rakan Xayah composition for Diabolus. Very much have that lane pressure, especially against the Lucian Braum, which we've seen constantly. They're very good at this, and there we go again. There's going to be the dodge out coming out from Fax, the Black Shield as well, but now it's down.
A lot harder to punish once Fax and that Kitsune hit level 2. Just to comment on what's been happening in the jungler, NG did invade onto Nulty's red buff and steal that away, then picked up the Scuttle Crab as well, so he's in a good position here. His red's still available later, and it looks like he's going to walk straight there. Actually, he's going to pick up the bot side Scuttle as well. So great for him. He's got such a lead already, and I'm not really sure. Nulty's going to cross in and try and pick up these wolves here, which is a small consolidation prize, because essentially you've just been 3-buffed by NG, and you're going to lose both Scuttle Crabs here.
This mid lane is being contested so far. Kerberos trying to find some damage onto Flaxish. Flaxish!
There we go.
It's not Flackish, guys. I can't say words. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you can see right now both junglers in the enemy jungle just invading away. But again, as I was alluding to before, NG picked up a lot more significant objectives here, but still not massively ahead. Nulty lacking this red buff, though, definitely going to affect him if he wants to go for any early ganks.
Currently, NG clearing out that blue side jungle, just matching Nulty. This bot lane's where we want to focus for Diabolus because of their ability to consistently pressure. The backs come through from Cookie. He's coming back to lane with some...
Actually, they've started the dragon. I mean, Olaf is exceptional at doing an early Drake here, but Anthrax has come to help. And I mean, with the sustain, one of the key things on Rakan is that your Q procs the heal off large monsters. So he can just keep healing the Olaf up, and they can take this early on, which is great for them. You know, we talked about how Diabolus are a team who don't like to focus the bot side, but clearly with a composition like this, and especially when there's an Infernal Drake, they will. And I mean, to pick that up so early on at 4 minutes, huge steal for them already.
That's very impressive. Adaptation coming out of Diabolus, and clearly The Infernal Drake probably had a lot to do with it. Nolty on the wrong side of the jungle. And it all comes back to the way NG started off his jungle pathing. Stealing away camps, stealing away buffs, forcing Nolty to respond by trying to get something back. Just opens up the map, and they've really changed the way Wind and Rain usually like to structure their game.
Yeah, just to have a look at the state of the game so far, lanes aren't really going too volatile. Obviously, we saw the flash loss bot lane, and although you do see CS lead top lane of Flaxius, there is a big wave pushing in, so Kerberos will be able to pick it up. But in the mid lane, we're seeing Zeph quite significantly far down in CS, and he is just sitting on his tower, essentially. Crossman seems to have control so far, but he is being ganked now.
NG here, gonna go asleep. Nolty with the counter gank. Crossman flashing away, and it is going to be NG focused down. The teleport's coming through from Flaxish, but first blood already for Nolty. Flaxish can't quite connect. That's going to be the flash from Crossman, and Wind and Rain up 1-0.
Yeah, just great plays from Crossman. He has control of the lane, gets ganked, doesn't run straight to his tower. He kites and dodges the CC, and Nolty comes in to clean up. And this is exactly what we needed from their mid-jungle duo if they were going to help facilitate the rest of their team. Zeph not looking as good as we'd hope on this LeBlanc pick.
That's very true. Zeph clearly hasn't showcased it yet in the Forge of Champions. It's Crossman's speciality. Going down in CS, but maybe they can turn around in this bot lane. Oh my goodness, Facts! You're just dead! Cookie able to find that kill.
Yeah, great play from Angstrax there. Though, oh, we are seeing the play top side. So Crossman sees Olaf coming in. He walked on a ward, but Nolty sees it as well. He kites around, gets a sleepy trouble bubble. Olaf already overcommitted. CC comes in for Nolty, and although the follow-up isn't there, they do get him in the end. And then the huge thing is, he manages to pick up Olaf's flash and uses that to get away from Flaxius. So they come out so far ahead there.
Really important, though, that Diabolus has got this bot side going for them already. We talked about how they're self-sustained, but constantly Diabolus do pick up the advantages in the bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're self-sustained, they don't need ganks, and yet they still pick up kills 2v2 and summoners. I mean, it was just a bit of an overestimation for Fax. His flash was down, his support wasn't there because he roamed mid. Very vulnerable to being punished.
And I really want to talk about Fax because, you know, he's a guy who came into the UK scene, really wanted to make a name for himself, but he was doing it when there was so many high-skilled AD carries in the game. Now he's taken a break, come back, and he really is looking to continue to do it.
Yeah, and he's had a good showing so far, but, you know, there has been some mistakes he's made. I think situations where he's overstepped and being punished. We saw that in the game against M&M, even though they did win in the end. One team fight, he got caught out by a Varasol, so
yep.
Hopefully he can sort of work on those mistakes and not get punished again in this game.
This top lane starting to get heated. Level 6 have been hit. We'll have to see how Kerberos goes. Bit of an engage from Flaxish there. Just trying to find damage. You don't really expect, though, that an Ornn is going to outtrade the Camille.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the early levels, Ornn does fine there. The base damage on his W is great, and this Camille pick is definitely sort of a scaling champion. Something you're looking to... Oh, we are seeing some aggression here from Crossman.
Yeah, he's going to be able to escape, but lots of health already taken down by Zeph, forcing the recall.
Kerberos is actually waiting in that brush. I think he saw Zeph's clone, realized it was a clone and didn't go in, but he was waiting in the wings. If Zeph overstayed there, could have been punished. I think that's the key thing, that this Camille can shut down a LeBlanc. If you get on top of her, she's not going to be able to dash away. So far,
Diabolus, no pressure in the top side yet, but in this bot side, Fax potentially in trouble. Takes a bit of damage here. That Black Shield once more, stopping the engage from Anthrax, but we'll have to see if Diabolus go for it again in just a sec.
Yeah, Anthrax could be hitting his level 6 soon, and that is the window to be able to engage freely. Yes, the Black Shield can interrupt it, but if you're not fast enough, the target will still get charmed.
NG just farming away on this Olaf. Do you see a bit of a roam coming through from Wind and Rain towards the bot side, and NG's currently cutting them off in the river. Good presence of mind. This is a different Diabolus.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting situation because we've never seen Diabolus play and have their mid lane lose early. And this is a situation that's happened here, and you can feel there's just so much less pressure on the map. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try and play it out from here.
Lots of damage coming out of Flaxish on this Ornn, pushing Kerberos all the way back to his tower and forcing a recall as well.
Yeah, and he's picked up the Sheen, so clearly confident in his ability to trade in this top lane. And I think this talks about how experienced Flaxish is as a player. Obviously someone who has not only played in the LCS on Giants for a split, but also at the top end of the Spanish scene. So someone with mountains of experience, and clearly, even in a matchup that obviously does get a bit dicey later on, he's confident to bring it to Kerberos early.
And that's really interesting because Kerberos' playstyle is fairly telegraphed. He loves to split push. He likes to get that advantage in the 1v1 and then continue it throughout the game. If Flaxish is going to stop him from being able to do that as this game goes on, then Kerberos will have to change his signature style.
Absolutely. But I feel like further on it gets into this, it's going to be harder and harder to sort of outplay. I mean, you see here, good trades from Flaxish are coming out, and yes, he does get a lot of damage onto Kerb.
Oh, we're going in. Ornhorn coming out, and here comes the jungler. Nolty does get knocked up, but the Hextech Ultimatum holding Flaxish back. Does look like he will be released and safe for now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it from Flaxish. He was going aggressive, he saw an opportunity, but not aware of the jungler's position, and that could have got a bit dicey. No flash available from Nolty, though, just come up now, so able to walk it off.
Does get back to base as well, unharmed. Mountain Drake is live. Diabolus so far haven't gone... Oh, in fact, they are on top of it. NG is taken away as we speak. Does look like Zeph has roamed down from the mid lane just to provide insurance. Nowhere for Wind and Rain to contest this, and Diabolus will be able to get that one for free.
Yeah, I think that's fine, though. I mean, Mountain Drakes are impactful, but it's not quite a second Infernal. You committed to the top side gank. You understand that relieves pressure on the bot side. So, okay, Diabolus get a Mountain Drake. Not the end of the world for Wind and Rain. Got to see what comes up next, and that'll be the one they really want to look to contest if it's something a bit juicier. It
is good, though, to see that since Nolty prioritizes the Drake control entirely, when you have an Olaf, you can kind of just take that back over. And so we'll have to see exactly how Nolty does decide to change it around, because so far, his impact has been that first blood, but he hasn't really found anything extra since he hit level 6.
Yeah, I mean, he went for the gank top lane, wasn't quite able to find it, but right now he's just facilitating vision control for this Zoe, because it's so huge. If you have vision control around mid for Zoe, there's so many angles you can fire the Sleepy Struggle Bubble, and not just that, it means you can start to move to other lanes to impact them.
Let's talk about scaling just a little bit, as Kerberos does dive in onto Flaxish here. This fight might go a little bit more aggressive than we're expecting. The Ornhorn's not quite up. We'll be in just a couple of seconds. Maybe that's when Flaxish looks to it. But scaling-wise, what are your thoughts?
I think in terms of scaling, Wind and Rain does come out ahead. Kerberos is going to be a menace in the split push late. I feel like Zoe does have more impact late game than LeBlanc, and Olaf falls off pretty hard. The saving grace is obviously the Xayah Rakan. They are more impactful than a Lucian Morg in the late game, but I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. If your Olaf is really far behind and useless, if your LeBlanc isn't able to find picks, I think Wind and Rain will win this out late. But they're clearly wanting to play it early and looking to pick up this Rift Herald.
NG always goes to the Rift Herald, but, you know, it makes sense when your top laner is this far ahead. Usually you can. Usually it's NG facilitating that, but no, it hasn't been necessary for Flaxish in this game. With that Rift Herald now, we'll have to see where he does pop it down. Oftentimes it goes mid for Diabolus so that they can try and open up the map further.
Yeah, and I could see it actually going aggressive here.
Yeah, it is going to be the chains onto Cookie, a roam coming down as well from the Zoe.
Yeah, good respectful flash. I think, because the thing is, even if you ult as the Xayah, you still get stunned if the tether's already on. And he saw the rest of Wind and Rain collapsing down.
Wow. Instant flash, but it's not going to be enough. The suppress coming through from Nolty. Hextech Ultimatum, and that's going to be Nolty being able to kill, but the trade comes through. The Ornhorn is here as well. Cookie on the backside. It's trading, and Anthrax wants to lock Nolty up as well. In fact, does he? No, he does not. They've already got the kills in the mid. If they can get the jungler down there as well, that's going to be a free mid lane tower.
Yeah, and Rift Herald's available as well. They might actually push for 2 here. Yeah, going to get channeled by the Olaf. That they've definitely got the first tower, but it should get some damage on the second one as well.
Here we go. First tower going to go down as this Rift Herald dives on into it. Almost didn't take any damage. They were trying to take it down just before. Looks like they may just fall back and allow it to die. Don't want to get countered here.
Yeah, but just a great play from Diabolus. They saw the aggressive play on his Zeph, and we're going to see that now. So they go aggressive on LeBlanc, flashbang early, and then Nolty pulls it back in. Ult comes out a bit late from Kerberos. She is able to dash in the tower. And look, you see now, Kerberos walks back under for the last auto. Still had aggro, cost him his life. Should have just let Nolty pick him up. And then Cookie is the one who actually TPs, well, as well as flashes. As Crossman just caught out there without any cooldowns, not able to get away.
Very good stuff from Flaxish to get on in there, Ben. You never expect the teleport plays from the AD carry behind you.
I mean, it just shows the level of communication with DIABOLUS. As soon as this play starts, they know exactly how to counter it. They know exactly who needs to turn up, and it worked. They end up turning something that didn't look completely favorable into something good for them.
Potentially a game where DIABOLUS are not going to be focusing on Zeph for their main damage here. Cookie so far doing fairly well. Picked up that Storm Razors.
Yeah, and this is scary for Wind and Rain, because we talked about how DIABOLUS looked a bit one-dimensional so far, and in fairness, they did. They were only playing one style, but even before they've lost a game to Wind and Rain, they've come straight into this series and gone, we're going to do something different. And although they haven't snowballed quite as hard as they may have liked to, they're definitely ahead in tempo so far this game.
Tempo can be a huge thing, especially for a team like DIABOLUS who feeds on top of it. However, gold is very much even. Looks like we're engaging here onto Kerberos. It's a 3 versus 1. Doesn't look like Crossman can do anything to stop that from happening. The bot lane tower will fall in favor of Wind and Rain, but it is going to be countered with a top side tower as the rest of DIABOLUS going to go back home, spend their gold.
Yeah, good from DIABOLUS. They want to get the top tower. That means they can head bot side and contest this next Infernal Drake coming up in a minute. But just a bit of a misplay from Kerberos. I mean, you know that the enemies are there. You know that they're focusing you. Oh, that was actually... Sorry, I've been distracted. That was actually really smart from Flaxius. So he aggroed the minions under the enemy tower. And what it meant is that the minion waves met while his wave had aggro. So now Kerberos is going to miss out on a ton of CS as well. So, I mean, this just shows the level of experience, how to punish someone absolutely. And it looks like even though it's only a 500 gold lead for Wind and Rain, they have this pressure on the map. They picked up that top tower. Kerberos is picking up a wave there with no TP, and when the second Infernal is up in 50 seconds, DIABOLUS are in a favorable position to take it.
And I have to praise, DIABOLUS always so decisive in their macro game, constantly trying to call the shots in the early game, and that's definitely what can happen when you have winning lane matchups. So far, it's all been about DIABOLUS. We have an Infernal Drake spawning in 30 seconds. Looks like Wind and Rain are trying their best to get in there and set up the vision control. Flaxish also getting engaged on in the top side. Teleport won't be available for him.
Yeah, Kerberos is actually up sooner, so they could go for a play on this Infernal Dragon. Looks like DIABOLUS are actually posturing for it, but risky when Flaxish doesn't have TP available. But looks like you can see both top laners just starting to walk down. They know the objectives here, and this is a huge thing. We talked about how it would give Wind and Rain a slight scaling advantage in this game. Double Infernal can definitely change
Oh wow, look at that. Cookie completely poked out at the beginning of this fight, but Crossman is the target. Ornhorn comes through, just knocking up the top side. They take down Crossman, and now Nolty's going to be the focus. Trade has come through. Cookie is dead. Kerberos able to pick up the fight, and it looks like DIABOLUS are forced to fall back. Zeph deleted as Nolty pulls him back in. It's not gone well for DIABOLUS here. Wind and Rain finding the man advantage so far. We'll have to see if they go straight for the Drake. Yeah, they will.
Yeah, just great team fight from Wind and Rain came out there. Managed to get Cookie low, even though they lost Crossman. They burned so much. And the thing is, you've done your job at this Zoe. You threatened the Desire so hard. It was an easy cleanup for Kerberos. Now they're gonna try and take this dragon. Flash is available for NG, so we might look to contest this.
Very low on health. It would be a suicidal flash. We'll have to see. Nope, does not come through.
Yeah, this is huge for Wind and Rain. They needed to secure that Infernal Drake.
Let's have a look at the replay and see how this went down. It was really good poke damage coming out from Crossman.
Stacks up the distance, gets a big chunk on a Cookie. Instant counter engage from DIABOLUS, but he buys so much time first with his flash, then his stopwatch. Flash just knows he has to reactivate his ult, but can't go for the still stopwatch Zoe, so he goes over there. Crossman does die, but you now have the entire DIABOLUS collapse together. The 80 carries exposed, Kerberos picks them off, and then that's all the damage from the side of DIABOLUS. Zeph's available, but he gets quickly ulted by Nolty, and after that there's no one else to threaten Fax, and he can walk up aggressively, forces DIABOLUS back, and that turns into the Infernal Drake.
Potentially a bit of a problem coming through for DIABOLUS. Zeph hasn't been able to have the control, the impact so far on this. LeBlanc clearly not wanting to step into his usual champion pool against Crossman's assassin-centric one.
And the thing is, the further it gets into this game, it's going to be harder and harder to punish Fax. He's getting this Black Cleaver next, which gives him a bit of bulkiness. He's got a Morgana Black Shield on him. And then on top of all that, your own AD carry, the Desire, has to deal with a threat from this Zoe, who's playing so well, and this Camille.
I love games like this. 3 Infernal Drakes going to be on the board in just 6 minutes time. A third has found itself in the pit. Really interesting to see who will be able to pick that one up. Clearly, DIABOLUS aren't wavered at this moment. A big push down, bot picking up the tower, looking for a second. That's huge amounts of golds swinging back to them.
Yeah, it just seemed like Wind and Rain dropped the ball a bit there. They had it top side but didn't have the wave. DIABOLUS just happy to push bot and 2 free towers. I mean, huge mistake from Wind and Rain. That just shouldn't happen.
That's where DIABOLUS' macro game can become prevalent. 30 seconds now until that Baron joins us on the Rift here. DIABOLUS so far have been a team that have huge vision priority around the Baron pits. Yes, in yesterday's semi-final, they did throw game 1 due to a Baron core. Misfits were able to steal the Baron away and it instantly end the game off of it.
Yeah, I think testament to, obviously it was a great push from DIABOLUS to get those 2 towers bot. The one, I mean, shine on light for Wind and Rain is they do have control for Baron. We can see it spawning now. The vision and the zone and the area around it is controlled.
and Kerberos in a bit of a fight here, and I don't think there's anyone who can really help come back in to stop it. Ornhorn does go south, doesn't connect, but Flaxish over the wall, looking for Kerberos. That hook shot coming up, he will be able to escape.
I think you're fine with this as Kerberos. Obviously the trade went badly. You're still scaling up Camille, but you traded flashes, and Flaxish now doesn't have his ultimate as well, which he sort of needs to team fight. And you can see Wind and Rain now confident to push up the mid lane.
I think this is a problem for Wind and Rain. Kerberos hasn't hit the spot yet where that Camille is able to split push against an Ornn.
But I think that's fine, because it's going to come eventually. I mean, yes, Flaxish is delaying it because he's playing the matchup well, and he had that CS lead early. But further on into the game, it's not about how good the players are. Camille just completely outright just beats the Ornn. And the thing is, Wind and Rain still feel pretty in control of this game. Yes, they're down in towers, but they're happy to contest the Baron area. And it's one of those situations where DIABOLUS on a bit of a time limit for that top lane matchup.
Here's Kerberos diving back onto Flaxish, letting him know that he's here. Misengaged comes out of Flaxish. It looks like Kerberos may be winning this one, but here comes NG coming around the corner, looking to get involved, and Amphrax is not too far away. Beautiful hook shot, gets a lot of distance, but the flash axe, and oh my goodness, unstoppable play coming through from NG. And there's no real response from Wind and Rain. Yes, they move into the top side to try and get vision control, but look at those blue wards. We could turn the vision on for blue team. You just see that so far DIABOLUS just have full control over this Baron pit. Almost nothing that Wind and Rain know.
Yeah, it's a really good timing to go for that play. Crossman,
oh, Fax onto Zeph.
Oh, bit of a misplay.
In a bit of trouble. Looks like he's going to go down here. Fax chasing on in. Zeph tries to dive forward, but not able to do anything. So far, this LeBlanc is 3 deaths, all of the deaths almost for the team.
Yeah, just huge misplay. And we talked about how Zeph picked this as a confidence pick, but clearly not comfortable on it. He misplayed there. He went in with his W and then his R. He came back to the original starting position, and then he repressed his buttons and ended up getting closer to Fax. He then had no mobility and was easily picked up by the Lucian, and Fax played the fight as well as he could, but a big misplay from Zeph there.
I mean, Lucian's just too tanky, man, for a LeBlanc.
Yeah.
That's all we're finding out here. Currently, the score's relatively even, the gold relatively even. DIABOLUS seem to be the ones calling the shots as far as the tempo of this game, but making mistakes like that, giving Wind and Rain slight ins here and there.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, you look at this LeBlanc, has also invested in a QSS on top of this Ludens. So weak. Behind on gold anyway compared to the Zoe, but you've spent 1,300 on a defensive item. I think Zoe's recalling now for the Zhonya's, which makes it a lot harder to pin her down. So, great position for Crossman to be in compared to his lane opponent.
And that's exactly where you want to be when the Infernal Drake is respawning in just 30 seconds time. Baron is on the table as well. Clearly, both these teams wanting that Infernal Drake. They have one apiece at this moment, but the person who gets the second is going to have that advantage as these massive team fights start to unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great for the scaling game, but I think the key thing as well, both teams most likely going to contest this Infernal Drake, whoever loses a fight might well lose Baron on top of it. So a lot to play for on this next dragon. Seeing it spawning up there, DIABOLUS are picking up the Rift Herald and do have posture for this next fight.
It's not quite the Rift Herald, it is the Scuttle.
I mean the Scuttle,
Here
sorry.
comes the TP coming through from Kerberos. This fight might just be getting him underway. Yes, it is, and that's going to be Zeph taking down Kerberos. Nolty's in the middle of it all. He goes down as well. Fax forced to flash over the wall. We just saw it from a different point of view. What does a top laner see when they come into a fight like this? Well, clearly nothing, because that's Infernal Drake for DIABOLUS.
Yeah, and it looks like they could just head over to the Baron. The pings are there. They have 5 members up. Huge misplay from the side of Wind and Rain. Kerberos just teleported in to instantly die, and then it felt like the team fight was lost from there. And this could well be a Baron from them. They do have the Zoe to try and contest, and I think Diabolus are aware of that, so they're waiting for another pick.
Let's have a look at the fight, how it did break out. Looks like the engage potentially came out of Wind and Rain, but that Ornhorn in the tight corridor makes things so hard.
TP comes in, and you can see he's right in the middle of the team. Just gets picked up, CC'd instantly. Huge misplay from Fax there, and then Nolty's just caught in the middle of their team with no one to follow up.
There's the flash over the wall as well, and at that point, nothing that Wind and Rain could do. The Infernal Drake did go the way of Diabolus, who then walked their way up towards the Baron pit. I guess we'll find out if they did manage to take the Baron.
No, I think they, I mean, we saw this when they were against Misfits, the risk of taking a Baron when there are people to contest it. They understand the threat from a Zoe putting burst over the wall, so not willing to go for it now. But they picked up this second Infernal, and we talked about how, yes, the scaling advantage does go over the Wind and Rain, but it was slight. And I think that a Xayah with double Infernal is going to scale so strong into this late game and be a big threat no matter what.
Huge moment for Diabolus to try and punish on. We know that Kerberos is going to be in this bot side, pushing against Flaxish, but he does not have teleport. Kerberos trying to remove Flaxish from the rift here. Re-engage does come through, but it fails. Ornhorn coming out, but everyone's here. Zoe coming through, the ultimatum! And Kerberos going to be able to win that without the help of Crossmen. Nolty charging in, going to be cleansed away. Diabolus able to keep Zeph alive with the QSS there.
Yeah, bit of a misplay from Nolty. QSS has been available for a while on LeBlanc, so shouldn't have gone for that. But, I mean, talking of what happened top lane, before that happened...
We say that, Zeph. He's rooted in the pool as well, burning away.
Action. And Wind and Rain are bringing it to Diabolus. Even though we've talked about how Diabolus have been a bit in control of this game, they are ahead in objectives. You can see the split push from Kerb is finally coming to fruition. He hard won that 1v1 against Flaxish. And we talked about how much experience Flaxish has, how well he's doing in the lane matchup. It doesn't matter at this point in the game. Camille has won nearly 2 items. That's all she needs.
Absolutely. Triforce, and well, she hasn't finished that Hydra yet.
I think she might be finishing it now on this recall.
At this point, Kerberos is doing pretty well. 202 CS to that 184 of this Ornn. You have to imagine at this point, Diabolus need to start making the decision to put Flaxish in the team fights, try and outplay Kerberos' split push by decisively team fighting Wind and Rain before Kerberos can do too much damage.
I mean, this is a difficulty because this is what happened in the first game against Misfits. Diabolus felt pressured by time and a scaling advantage, and they forced Baron and ended up losing the game of it. The same thing could end up happening here. They are worried about the fact that Camille is just going to scale more and more, and they will lose the split push. And so look, you can see them, they're trying to get vision control, they're trying to find a pick. They know that the timer is against them.
Teleport's still not available for Kerberos, but a massive minion wave going to be starting to stack up in that bot side. Diabolus have moved towards the Baron pit here. Question is, do they go for it? Backports from Fax, but he does have teleport. Does look like it is going to be Diabolus starting this up. There's no way for Kerberos to get involved in this Baron play, but of course there's so much damage that can come out from the Zoe. Over the wall, going to put the jungler asleep. The Ornhorn does go missing. No, he gets it out. Nolty in the middle of it, but the smite is won by NG, and now it's going to be Diabolus falling back with their prize.
Yeah, and you see Kerberos trying to come on the flank, but a bit too late here. And Diabolus going to get away with the prize, uncontested.
Oh, you say that?
I say that.
Does get put asleep. Here comes Crossman looking for the kill, but he's not going to be able to find it now. The rest of Wind and Rain over the wall. Anthrax in trouble, able to go dodge it out. Kerberos in the middle of it all, going to lay down the Hextech ultimatum. Anthrax goes down, Angie goes down. Towers in the mid lane losing their life as well. Wind and Rain finding everything.
You know, I say they get away uncontested. Wind and Rain want to prove me wrong. Good roam at the end, coming out from Kerberos to pick up some kills. Still, Baron does go over to Diabolus, and because of that, they maintain their gold lead, but they lost a lot of them right there on the back end, so not as smooth as they would have liked.
Have to see how that affects things moving forward. Diabolus still have that Baron on the majority of their team, though.
I believe it's on LeBlanc and Xayah and Flaxish. I believe all 3 of them have it, so still a lot of versatility with that. But the thing is, they lost a lot of tempo on the back of that. Wind and Rain had the members advantage off the back of those deaths. They were able to get some control and some vision.
Let's see how this one went down. It was the Baron play from Diabolus. There was just not enough respect, I guess, from Wind and Rain to get in there quickly enough.
Yeah, Nolty goes in, doesn't end up getting the smite off the back end. and Diabolus think they're able just to make it away. Crossman lands a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and this is actually a good play from Zeph. He QSS's to catch him off guard and goes to the burst. The problem is, he was just buying time. Kerberos is now turned up, and this Camille is very strong at this point in the game. Able to jump on top of Anthrax and Engie, and he plays this so well. He ults the Olaf to trap him, but he knows he's going to get stunned up soon. I'm going to follow up the kill onto the Rakan, and the Olaf gets cleaned up off the backside. So, nice 2 kills, and well played from Kerberos. So clearly, he knows that he's scaling up here. His champion feels a lot stronger, and he's investing in a GA next, which means he's going to be able to teamfight even better.
With the way that these waves are currently structured, there's not really anything that the DIABOLUS can do with their advantage here. This Baron really just not finding any use for the side of DIABOLUS, which just plays into the fact that Wind and Rain are continuing to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the big fear is that, you know, Black just got solo killed. I believe it's at level 13. Kerberos is now level 15. He's getting more items. It's just going to get worse and worse. Yes, they have the Baron right now, so they can sort of keep him at bay. But there's going to become a certain point where that's not going to be possible. And you really got to start fearing there. Dragon going to be picked up by Wind and Rain.
I mean, they had to at this point. Elder Drake is the next one. And
yeah, so
if DIABOLUS were able to get it, it would be 4.
Yeah, it does sort of equalize in terms of number of dragons, but obviously 2 Infernals a bit more impactful. DIABOLUS are going to head towards the top side and try and contest this last outer tower available.
Kerberos is split pushing, has teleport available in the bot side, and he is going to be able to get onto that tower. And for Engie, taking half of his damage, helpful in damage to that culling. And Kerberos is still pushing in the bot side. Cookie going to be the first to recall. Zeph following him as well. That bot side tower loses most of its health. Kerberos not going to finish it up. But that's a huge win for Wind and Rain.
Yeah, and it just shows the scaling power on Wind and Rain. Olaf is useless at this point in the game. He just tanked all that culling, had to pop his ult to disengage, and just essentially ran away. He was just a walking brick wall for Fax to pummel into. And the only person who could really threaten him, I feel, is Cookie. Zeph has to get through a black shield, and when he's so far behind, I don't feel he's going to be in much of a position. Yes, Cookie is going to be able to trade one to Fax. He has a lot of crit items, he does a lot of damage, but it's when you have one person who can really deal with the enemy's fair carry, then you're going to be struggling.
And of course, the only win condition that DIABOLUS have at this point is to find a team fight that goes well for them, and Wind and Rain not allowing that to happen. They're constantly splitting their team up, making sure Kerberos is split pushing so that you can't at least you know, set up a team fight that way. But every time that DIABOLUS has pushed up, Wind and Rain have kind of just said, no, we're not gonna play for that.
Yeah, they did try and look for a pick bot lane. You can see them all grouping up around Flaxius, hoping Kerberos would come bot again.
Though this could be very much trouble. Oh, the damage coming out of Zeph. His Black Shield should keep him alive. Teleport coming through from Cookie. Crossman potentially caught out. Engie chasing. Oh no, he goes over the wall and a pause! Why do we pause during team fights? Oh my goodness. Oh no. We can't be doing this. This is so UK.
Yeah, not a great time to pause.
What happens next, guys? Does Engie find the kill onto Fax?
Right,
Or does Fax escape?
I'm going to be honest.
I think he flashes, teleports to the top side with Kerberos, and they push down, split pushing all the way into the base and win the game. That's my prediction.
Oh, and
or
it
not,
seems
he
like we're having
dies.
them pause. Fax dies instantly, and Akitsune as well. And we're going to see what can DIABOLUS do with this wave. Big death timers in the bot lane. Kerberos is still pushing top. I feel like he has to back. I'm not sure how well they can defend.
Well, we'll have to see. Ornhorn is going to come out. Amphrax looking for the engage. The Zhonya's from Crossman. Can they get it? Yes, they can! Great timing on that Zhonya. Zeph picks up the kill into Crossman. And this could be DIABOLUS pushing into the base for the win. Wind and Rain have fallen. And this is going to be the inhibitor falling as well. Kerberos is back into the action with Nolty. I don't think he can do much. They are going to go for it though, but I don't think they can do it. Nolty loses his life. Kerberos forced to go back onto the fountain. First Nexus tower is down, the second shortly to follow. A 1v5 ditch effort from Kerberos comes through, but it means nothing. DIABOLUS pick up game 1.
Oh, what a play coming out from DIABOLUS to end it off the back of that. I really thought they'd lost their footing. They weren't the same team we've seen throughout this tournament, and they really came in strong just towards the end of that game.
Yeah, that was really interesting for me. I watched from the sidelines. It didn't look like Zeph was really doing that much. In the sort of the beginning, Zeph looked like he was potentially struggling on this LeBlanc. Yeah, I know.
Your voice just came back in.
I also didn't know whether I was just saying anything or just talking. Anyway, I'm here now. Maybe you can hear me now.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So basically, I was looking for the sidelines. It didn't really look like mid lane was working out, but everywhere else in the map was going well for DIABOLUS. what exactly did they do to sort of get this win? Because the mid sort of jungle roam wasn't exactly how we've seen it being performed before.
Yeah, I think, honestly, the mid lane just was a big non-factor for DIABOLUS there. Zeph didn't really have the impact on his LeBlanc. Did go for the pick at the end that did help them out, but I think it was just an overstep by Fact. The game was in Wind & Rain's hand. Yes, they lost the Baron, but they had the scaling advantage. Kerberos was getting strong. All Fact had to do is not get picked.
Yep.
And that's what he did. And we talked about this before the start of the game, in that Fact has played over-aggressive in some of his previous games in Forge of Champions, being caught out before against M&M, even though they were miles ahead.
Yep.
Joker's managed to land a Varusel onto him. And we saw this again here. If he managed to survive there, or just not give over a free kill, I think Wind & Rain would have taken that game.
And I want to rotate the question down towards mid lane again. Both mid lanes kind of struggled with this game, I would say, especially from the early portions.
I mean, I don't think that's fair.
Crossman did pretty good.
Crossman dominated that mid lane matchup, constantly pushing Zeph back.
But he didn't really get any rewarded for it. I mean, he ended 0-3-5. He didn't really get rewarded for it.
He wasn't necessarily able to roam around the map like he's been able to in previous series. He wasn't really scaling his team like normal. Zeph picks this LeBlanc up. It's very much a bold statement. Look, I can play Assassins too. Watch me. Watch me. It didn't really happen. Was able to, you know, kind of get the damage out into Fax in that last team fight, which won the game for DIABOLUS. But you would expect that with Crossman on his, you know, favorite hero, champion Zoe, you know, able to play this assassin type, you would have huge impact coming from the mid lane. No, he kind of just focused his efforts onto Zeph, who, for the most part, even though he was performing badly, didn't give that much away.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this game for a long time, but
we will.
but I think that the thing that's going to be really difficult is you just lost to DIABOLUS when they were on blue side.
Yep.
And we talked about how key that advantage was. They're now going to go on red side. They can have counter pick for Flaxius. I mean, I feel like Wind & Rain should have won this game, and I think now that they've lost this one, it's going to be difficult to come back from obviously losing the game you could have had, losing momentum, and you're now going to have a Flaxius having a counter pick, so it's going to be a tricky one to come back from.
Well, they're just getting baited into too many team fights. Were they being baited with the teleports and Kerberos, forcing into awkward situations? Because I felt like one of the major win conditions that they had was this split push Kerberos that ended up doing well against Flaxius 1v1. You saw a couple of those 1v1 kills that he potentially sought out. But he kept teleporting towards dragon fights. He kept getting absolutely blown up.
When it's an Infernal Drake, what's your option?
I understand that one. I understand when they came to the Infernal and then they ended up getting the next one. But the big thing was, what was Fax doing where he was? There was no reason for him to be that pushed up. You don't have the vision. If you want vision, use your blue trinket. But like, there's no reason.
Before that, we clearly saw that Kerberos and the rest of Wind & Rain had hit that end game point where their win conditions are very obvious. Kerberos split pushes, Flaxish cannot counter it. It means that both Zeph and Cookie have to go back to base to stop it. And so Fax just needs to chill out. Here's this this first blood, I think, oh, it's not the first blood, it's actually Zeph losing his life, but then Kerberos overextends. Yeah,
big misplay. He thought he had to get the last hit. Nolte could have done it, and it's a good reaction from DIABOLUS to come back in. And I mean, I think this is the story of the game. DIABOLUS, although they didn't meet their win conditions of winning the early too hard, I think Zeph wasn't comfortable in LeBlanc, and we saw that. They played well as a team. Even when they got to the point where we thought Wind & Rain have this in the bag, they have the scale and advantage, and it's getting late, they still looked for how can we win this. And the way was, you pick the AD carry and just end up that.
So was this pure capitalization of mistakes from Wind & Rain from DIABOLUS? Let's have a look at this tweet from Fax. We actually have a tweet. About to play versus DIABOLUS in the final of Forge of Champions. Should be a really good series. I wonder what was more expensive, their botted Twitter followers or their bot lane. I can't wait to stop them.
I mean, I'm not gonna comment on the first point, but Fax hard lost bot to DIABOLUS.
Look,
wow, he went in. 42 likes as well, and banged.
I mean, how does it feel though when you put out such a statement like that, and then Anthrax and Cookie solo kill you, or you know, they kill you without assistance? Anyway, we're just gonna.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's some heat. That is some heat. I'm feeling hot here.
Do you know what? I'm actually gonna say. I'm gonna say this. We've got a tweet from Flaxish now, so we're not done.
Fight back.
This was yesterday. Unlucky Baron throw game 1. He was talking about when they were facing up against Misfits. Finals tomorrow, really free for us.
Well, I mean, they've won game 1 already, so I feel like Flaxius has made the plays to back up his tweet. We've got to see if Fax can bounce back and back his up.
Do you know what? I'm going to say this now. If you're a UK player at this level in Forge of Champions, I want more of this. This is really funny. Honestly, and I love the rivalries. I know it's a bit of banter. I know everybody doesn't quite mean.
I don't think so. I think
deadly serious.
Flaxis and Fax are going to fight in the next line.
Oh, really? You think it's IRL? But if you guys do this at home, I will feature your tweets. So hashtag Forge of Champions. If they're good, I will feature them on stream. There you go.
That's the motivation.
That's the motivator. That's the motivator. So yeah, that was some spice coming out from Fax.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as one-sided as Flaxius made out to be, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see from this team fight. I mean, this was a one-sided team fight where Kerberos just teleported in and inted. That's the only way to describe it.
The best thing about that was that before the team fight, happened, we got the view of Kerberos
we're like,
Kerberos
is teleporting in. What's he gonna do?
Into dive. It was not what you wanted to see. I mean, yes, Fax needs to step up his bot lane. Cookie and Amphrax were able to, find kills in the bot lane by
Every
themselves.
time you see Fax, I just think,
snap out of it.
Wow.
No.
Heat.
I love you, Fax, by the way. That was
Barcelona
quality.
sun.
Yeah. It's just the heat in Barcelona. We had some spicy food as well. Had Mexican for lunch, so, I think that's just hit me a bit.
Explosive chicken wings last night.
Oh, yeah, explosive chicken wings.
Okay, we're deviating quite
absolutely.
hard from the real banner. So yeah, I think it wasn't quite as one-sided as Flaxius made out. I do love the spice that Fax is bringing. He's now got to do a bit of work to back that up. Definitely got to do a bit of work because the bot lane didn't look so comfortable for them. I feel like maybe the Morgana pick was an interesting one. I don't know if it had the effect that maybe it could have done. I feel like I just genuinely think Braum would have been better. It does well into it, or at least it matches Xayah Rakan. So
I think the big one is this next game is going to be the game for Flaxius to back up his words.
Yep.
He gets counter pick. He can pick something aggressive. He can pick a carry. So, it's his chance to pop off.
Well, believe me, Dalsy put out a tweet on his Twitter profile. You go to, is it Dalsy GG? Dalsy GG. He said, who's going to win between Flaxish and Flakish and Kerberos? And Kerberos actually voted for Flaxish. So
Complete confidence in himself.
Complete confidence in himself. Right, don't go anywhere, guys. We want to see how this one rounds out. After the break, we'll have the second game between Wind and Rain and Diabolus.